Hey, welcome to Lab, the podcast. Honored to share some time with singer-songwriter Skye Peterson. Skye is from Nashville. She loves Jesus and daffodils. And as much as she likes answers, her music is a journal entry full of questions, stories, and doubts. Even as she wrestles and wonders, she feels the urge to sing about spring in December, light on the darker days, and love during the lonely weeks. She released her first album, Where the Winter Was, in 2023 after studying theology in England and Kentucky, splitting her time between touring and writing hymns for Getty Music. Skye also finished recording her second album, All the Difference, which was voted Best Christian Album by the Gospel Coalition. During that time, Skye's hymn, I Am Not My Own, was nominated for a Dove Award. She released a bunch of other songs for the local church while continuing her solo tour. And then in 2024, Skye and Addison Agin launched a brand new band called Fielder. It's an alternative folk duo with songs that are spirited, heartfelt, and thoughtful. The full album was released on August 2025, and they spent the rest of that year touring the country, opening for the Arcadian Wild. In the margins of the Fielder's first tour, Skye finished recording her fourth album, which is Through Line, and that released in May of 2026. Skye, congrats on Through Line. It's a beautiful album, and thanks for making some time to celebrate it with us.
Thank you so much for having me. That bio makes me sound really impressive, doesn't it?
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I had to read that because I was like, wow, you've done a ton of work. And Through Line is part of that, is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It was recorded in the margins of some of that work. You were on tour, you were writing and recording and touring all at the same time. Have you even had a chance to kind of feel what you're feeling this side? This album just released in May. So have you had a chance to make sense of how you're feeling on that backside of getting it out in the world?
I think so. Yeah, it does take a while to feel like, oh yeah, I'm not just hearing these songs from my Dropbox folder on my phone. It's like, oh yeah, everyone is actually hearing these right alongside me. And it feels really relieving to have it out there because the recording process just takes so long. It's like, yeah, like you said, it was kind of recorded in the margins of a lot of other exciting things going on. And so we kind of like look back and we're like, okay, I think that's an album. A year later, I think that's a full album. So it feels really good to finally have it out there.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful. As I said, I can't wait to talk about the album. And particularly, there's a few songs I listened through Line several times. And there were a few songs that deeply moved me. And I know people are going to love it. The album's Through Line. We'll talk about that in a second. But I know for me, I was new to your work. Through Line was really my first introduction to you as an artist. And it was one of those surprises where I was listening to the album and immediately I was struck with the quality of your writing, and we'll say more about that. But really the writing is what came through. It's beautifully done, beautifully recorded. Your voice is amazing. But that I was struck by the quality of your writing. You're from Nashville, so you're kind of in the heart of a lot of good writing. Has Nashville always been home to you?
It has, yeah. I was born and raised here, and my dad's a songwriter, and my mom was a piano teacher, so it was constantly around me. And I feel like living in Nashville, you're like one person removed from all of your songwriting heroes, and everyone, like every barista you meet is also probably a songwriter, and it's such a special place to grow up. It's not until I kind of left for college and all that that I realized just how incredible Nashville is.
Yeah. If you could invite us to meet you in a spot in Nashville that feels particularly like home, like you just go, man, this is where I feel most at home. This is Nashville at its best for me. Where would you take us?
Okay. All right. Here's the day we're going to have. We're going to meet at Sevier Park, which is it's where I got engaged. It's beautiful. It's like kind of smack dab in the middle of the city. Kind of gives New York Central Park vibes, where it's like surrounded by lots of buildings and coffee shops and restaurants, but it also has massive trees everywhere. Okay, we're going to start there, and then we're going to walk to Lady Bird Taco, which is the best breakfast taco place in town. And then we're going to go to the Basement East to watch a concert.
Okay.
That's our day.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, we'll make notes. Riley will drop those, and we'll have like a separate video that's like a tour guide, Skye Peterson's guide to Nashville, which will be pretty great. Yeah, Nashville's. I mean, it sounds beautiful. I'm sure. I mean, we've been to the touristy spots. Everybody walking around Broadway, and there's a ton of energy there. Baristas who are also songwriters, and I have this imagination in my mind that it could be intimidating too because everybody's great, right? Like that's it's not just like, hey, my cousin's in a band. It's like your cousin could be like a touring artist, and everybody's great. Is
Yeah.
that is that how it really is, first of all? And is that then intimidating or is it inspiring or is it both?
Oh, it's absolutely both. Yeah, it depends on the day. For the most part, I wonder how it's different than like LA, but it definitely feels less competitive, at least in the circle that I run in. It feels like because everyone is a songwriter, everyone kind of understands how hard it can be, and everyone just kind of has each other's back. So I definitely feel inspired by all of the people that uh, are making music or art of any kind. And I definitely some days feel imposter syndrome, you know. It's hard not to. Yeah. And especially like hometown shows are really fun and also like the most terrifying thing for me. And it's because everyone in the audience knows that I can only play in three different keys and everyone is, you know, probably a better piano player than me. And that's like part of the magic and it's also a little scary sometimes,
Yeah,
depending
I
on
bet.
yeah.
Yeah, I bet that's crazy, especially when there's art in the family and like your Nashville's home. You've grown up there, so people know you. They know you as a kid. They know you in your musical gift. They know your journey into your gift and your artistry. Yeah, but I'm with you. I come from a smaller area in Oregon. It was wine country, and I've said this before that the winemaking community out there is really, really generous. Everybody is really for each other. There's not a spirit of competition. It's more collaboration, and it's not
Mhm.
cutthroat. People just want everybody to win, and they want the whole region to win. And when you find communities like that, it's beautiful. And so it's cool to hear that everybody's for each other in the
Yes.
craft because we need great writing. I mean, I think that's for me, again, for Throughline, that's what I loved hearing through Throughline is humanity, some depth, theological richness in it, some just the beauty of a good and broken future kind of commingled existence that we live. That is really important, especially as music, it feels like that so much volume is being churned out. I mean, there's just music being made, and now we have AI on top of that, where there's a whole nother like super highway of, in my opinion, it's not there, it's not human art, it's just volume being
Yeah.
produced. So it's cool to hear that there's an ecosystem of people really trying to do the craft of writing. And when I listen to Throughline, there's some particularly poetic little turns that you make at the end of some of your phrasing that is like the best. It's what you want out of great writing.
Mhm.
And so I noticed that right away that there's a poetry to your writing that's super, super, super beautiful. And that just is a gift. If you look back in your story, when did you first maybe become aware that like, okay, I've got that, there's something in me that wants to express itself through language, maybe musically. When did that first hit you? Or start to dawn on you that like, hey, this is different?
Yeah. Well, uh I'm so privileged to have like parents that have great music taste, and they would constantly share. I mean, I grew up on Sarah Groves, Patty Griffin, Sandra McCracken, Emmylou Harris, and people that I think, like you're talking about, kind of toe the line between like beautiful craft and also like honesty and just speaking as if they're real people and not AI. And so I think just growing up hearing that made me want to express my thoughts that way. Uh, but ever since I was a little girl, the reason I wrote songs was because I felt like I had to process things. I had really big emotions and didn't really know where to put them. Uh, and so whenever I'd experience anything big or small, my instinct was to just like go in my room, shut the door, grab a guitar, and write a song about it. And I joke sometimes that I find myself quoting my own lyrics a lot because I don't really know how I feel about a thing until I write a song about it. And like that's the fullest picture of what I think about a thing. So, um, yeah, so literally, I mean, the first song I wrote was when I was 5, and it was called God is Love. And it was amazing. So
Yeah.
good. Um, no, it was terrible, but I love it, and I'm grateful for, um, and also the space to be able to process things. The fact that the whole culture of Nashville is uh, like if you have a passion or some creative outlet that you would love to like process things through, then there's like so much room to invest in that. That's why like half of the city is homeschooled. It's because there's a spirit of, yes, like do the thing that you love to do, what you were made to do, and we'll like make space for you to share
Yeah. Wow.
it.
What a ecosystem to grow up in creatively, right? Like some of us are privileged to live in a real wild place where the outdoors is just in us, and
Yeah.
some people have a really urban understanding, and they were formed and shaped by like just the industry of an urban area, and then just a creative ecosystem like Nashville to come of age in that would be really really cool when everybody's in that same water, so to speak. But somebody believes in us at some point to give us the courage to say like, this is what I'm made to do,
Yeah.
and I'm going to pursue it, forsaking some other things, right? I'm not going to go in this direction or this direction. I can't do everything. It
Yeah.
seems like I was made to do this thing. And
Mhm.
so that's putting you on the spot a bit, but if you had to go back and say like, who's the first person that believed in you to the level where they were like, no, Skye, trust it. Like the gift, it's not
Yeah.
just flattery. It's not just you write good songs at 5 years old, but like you have
Mm.
something that should be developed as a craft.
Yeah. Great question. A million people come to mind, but the first two that come to mind are my dad, who's like I mentioned, he's a songwriter too, and would give me chances to like open for him all throughout the year. And I think the first like official tour I went on was whenever I was 16 and got to go on his tour bus and do the whole road life, and it was wonderful and inspiring. But honestly, the main person right now that I keep thinking about is my brother Asher, who is he's a dear friend of mine and he's incredible. But whenever I think I was 17. Asher, who loved producing and loved kind of road managing, which he's still doing now. He had the idea that I should do like a backyard tour, and he produced my first 5-song EP, and uh, but he was like, Skye, you can really do this. You should do it. And so we like had a meeting, and we like packed up a car. He booked like 15 shows in people's backyards and like handled all the ticket sales, and all 20 people that came were like, I still have people from those original shows that come by and are like, I remember when you were just in the backyard. And but yeah, my brother's like belief not just in my songwriting, but like in the career, as this is more than just a hobby. If you wanted it to be, like, you could really do this. um it's such a gift. I wonder if, yeah, I should thank him for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever gone out of my way to do
Oh,
that. Yeah, it's such a gift to have someone believe in you enough to actually do something about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. No, the choice to, it's one thing to have a gift. It's another thing to like hone a craft, take the risk, play in a backyard, do it
Yeah.
again, set up,
Yeah.
take down, carry stuff from the car, have
Mhm.
20 people show up. But I think what's cool, and I really believe this, I think that the world is orienting back, which might surprise people, towards a richer expression of what it is to be human.
Mm.
Just as the scale of the monolith of digital life is just like scaling straight vertical. I think 20-person shows in a backyard are going to actually become, we're going to go back to realizing how not just beautiful those are, but essential those are,
Yeah.
and how not everything needs to be a stadium tour to be
Mhm.
good. that there is actually like art, and the arts are something that we get to have intimate proximity to, and sometimes that's when it's at their best. Like, again, coming from the West Coast, you go to a restaurant in Portland, there's like 10 tables, and it's the best place that you can eat, not
Mhm.
because you're serving a stadium filled with food, but you're curating something for people, and it's going to happen that night, and you're going to be
Yeah.
one of 10 that got to experience something that took place. I love that. So I think your brother was on to it and
Uh-huh.
ahead of it. But yeah, to give you the courage to say, let's go, Skye, you can do this.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool gift.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that makes me think about how before most shows, one of the things I say to myself is like if there are 20 people there, I always say there are 20 real people that are here listening to this. Like this is not just Haley Reardon, a songwriter I love. She has a line that's like, I don't need to fill a stadium, just a single chair, and how like stadiums are built up of these individual chairs, and that's like a whole career is or my whole career is based off of lots of individual real people
Yeah.
listening, and it makes me love it even more. Yeah, the
Yeah.
the people that I listen to most are people that make me feel like I'm a full human and that they're a full human.
Yeah. Ah, come on. And I think it's not an either or, right? Because I've never played a stadium, but I have sat in stadiums and experienced the energy of like tens and twenties and thirties of thousands of people sing. Beautiful. Love it. Can't wait. Feels like heaven. It's going to be like that in scale, right? So not bad. It's just, it's
Right.
one part of the artistic thing. And I think we get out of balance if we say that that's the only marker of success is these few people who are playing stadium tours. I'm excited for people to go, no, there is crazy good writing, crazy good artistry happening. Well, in your city, every block you're probably walking past. Phenomenal, phenomenal writing. As you think about your development as an artist, right? And that's what I like too. Even the creation story is a development story. So it's not like, oh, go back to nothing, go back to the garden. It's like, no, build a city, scale it. So Skye, you may play a stadium someday and that'll be beautiful. But as you go from this journey, from making your first album or writing at 5, making your first album, touring in some backyards, and now today you just released Throughline, this beautiful album.
Mhm.
What surprises you when you look back at your own story and development as an artist? What might be surprising when you look back and go, man, I would not have guessed that?
Another good question. Well, a couple things come to mind. I mean, one is a comment that I get relatively often, and it's Skye, you're going places, and that I've tried to figure out why that comment bothers me so much, and I think it's because I feel like I am in a place now, like, this backyard matters so much to me, and these 20 people that I'm singing to matter so much to me that thinking so much about the future, feels like dishonoring of the present that I've been given, so uh I love looking back on the little baby steps of my career thus far, and I'm so I'm so new. I love acting or talking as if I know stuff because I'm so at the beginning of this career. Um, but how it's been a very slow build, and I would have it no other way. Like I love that the people who were in that backyard on that first tour are still the people that are kind of building me up and keeping me going, um, and I'm also surprised at the pace of my writing feels like uh I'm kind of still writing about the same things just with a couple more months experience of thinking about a thing, but even that first song, God is Love, is like I'm still wrestling with the same subjects, uh and I hope and pray that I will always be wrestling with the same subjects, and that the love of God is this thing that I can approach from all different angles, and God is gonna, make it look different depending on where I am and who I'm with, and it's gonna mean different things to me throughout my whole life. So, uh, it's surprising and it's not that I'm still singing about His love, but I'm grateful for it. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind.
I'm Zach Elliott, Executive Director of VUVIVO, and together with our partners, we are recovering the deep Christian tradition of standing behind the arts by making significant investment in visual art, music, and literature. We're working together with some of the world's most gifted fine artists, composers, and authors to wondrously reveal Christianity and invite people to know God personally. This work to recover the tradition of standing behind the arts is going to take a fresh generation of patrons committed to resourcing and releasing these great artists to use the highest and best of their gifts to the glory of God and for the good of the world. You can join us in that work by becoming a V3 partner. Reach out for more information or go to vuvivo.com/support to join us in standing behind the arts. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think I said it before we started recording, but we're interested in the world's greatest artists telling the world's greatest stories. And that's what great artists have always done. And you need both, right? The world's there's the greatest story that is inexhaustible. It's ineffable. There's a mystery of God. It's a summit that you'll never eclipse, right? Like it's just, we spend our whole life just trying to get our mind around that one idea that God exists, that he's for us, that he loves us. That's brilliant, right? And the way then an artist looks at that from every different angle, it would take you a lifetime. It would take a lifetime of artistry. And this is what I get excited about. There has to be new great writers. We can't just keep listening to, the greats of the past. We can believe that no, there's great writers today. I think Skye, you're one of them that is going to help us have language for something that mysterious, that is beyond us. It's transcendent. Yeah. And we're all feeling it. We made a symphony called Sehnsucht Symphony. We all have that longing, that infinite longing for something beyond us. And we need artists, we need poets and folks to give us language for that feeling. And so thank you for trusting your brother. Thanks for being a good 5-year-old and going on that development journey, and for believing that the 20 people in your backyard matter. I hope, I said it, I'll fire the shot already. I would love to see you come to Tampa and visit Tampa, and we'll get a proper spot set up for you to come. But those things you help us be more human, and the glory of God is man fully alive, beholding God, that idea. So when somebody can help us see God and we become more of who we were made to be, a little bit of God's glory appears in the world. And it takes a gift like yours sometimes to help us see something. So I think Throughline does that. I have my own thoughts about Throughline that I'll explore in a second. But if you had to introduce somebody to this album and say, okay, this one is different, it's unique in its own right in my collection of writing, how would you describe Throughline, the album?
I would describe it as I used to make friendship bracelets as a kid, and I like to describe this record as like how our stories are like a friendship bracelet, and how every single chapter in our life is like another bead on the bracelet. And the whole record is about the way that God kind of writes his story, his complete story, through all of the little moments in our life. So Throughline is kind of like an exploration of my past and what I've been thinking about, and all of the many ways that God meets me in his love in the individual moments. And the first track on the record feels like a great overview of the whole album. It's called God of Seeing, and it's about God in my laundry room, which is where I am right now, by the way. And God in sipping coffee, and God in all of the little things, and how his eyes are on those moments, and also like what faith means, or what faith has looked like for me is learning to see God in those moments. Like it's a mutual seeing that happens, and the whole record kind of explores that thought.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. If you were to think about playing songs from Throughline in a backyard, 20 people, Sometimes we're surprised because we think, somebody stumbles in, they don't know where they're going. They just showed up with a friend and something surprises them. So there are those for sure. I've been that person. And then there's the person who you look out and your set list for the night. And you
Mm,
look at that person and you go, I'm so glad you're here. Cause you know that you're about to walk into some things that they're
mm,
probably living.
yeah.
If there's that person that you're just like, man, I hope you sit all the way through this record. Is
Yeah.
there a person that you could say like, oh, I hope they hear it? Like obviously everybody, but as
Yeah.
a writer, I'm sure there's somebody that you're just like, yep, this is for you.
Hmm. I think anyone who's hungry for what's real. Uh, and also it's funny, you can't really choose your demographic, but a lot of moms and daughters come to my show, uh, which I just love. I couldn't love it more. It's such an honor because I feel like a lot because I started so young. Um, a lot of my songs are just like really um, me processing growing up and what it means to love God and be loved by Him. And so often, whenever I look out at the crowd, I find all of the younger girls in the audience because I still feel that age, and a lot of my music comes from that place in my heart.
Hmm.
And yeah, I find myself singing to them mostly. But yeah, it's more than just singing for the little girls. It's also singing for myself selfishly to help me process things. And then but most importantly, I find myself just singing for God. Often, if you ever see me live, my eyes are closed for half of it because I find myself in my own like little world trying to have my songs be an offering. Um, kind of helps me get there when I
Yeah.
close my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Yeah, that hunger for what's real, and whether you're a young girl, I've got daughters, and you're just trying to you know that you were made for what's real, and so you do long for it. And there's so many counterfeits, so many lies that seem better than the truth, which is a great lyric that you in it's a paraphrase of a lyric that you have in the album, but that can happen. And so whether you're a young girl, you're a mom, you're wanting the best, you're navigating the pressures of life, whether you are you singing to yourself. I think that this album has, like you described, those beads that are for everybody in that through line of our story of a God who loves us and is with us and allows us to wrestle and be in the mystery. And you have one of the songs, Mysterious Something, that I love. I wish we could just talk through every single track. We'll do it in Tampa. But Mysterious Something, you have a line that says, "What turns our head and points us home." Right?
Mhm.
What turns our head and points us home. We're in the beauty department kind of at V3 all the time, but there's so many different things that you're pointing to that do that turn our head and point us home. First, what are you saying in that lyric? And then what's something particular that has done that for you?
Oh my goodness. A lot of the songs on the record talk about that exact line, so I'm so glad you brought it up. But uh, I think God points us towards himself all the time, but through things and through people. I can't tell you how many times my husband has been that person that's like kind of pointing me in God's direction. And I think a lot about like doubt and faith and how they intersect and how like there's my dad talks about how there's like a healthy way to doubt and an unhealthy way to doubt. The unhealthy way to doubt is whenever you're doubting away from God, and it kind of turns you in a different direction. And the healthy way to doubt is to like look towards Him, and all of like faith is just doubt pointing in God's direction. And whenever you're able to like ask Him questions and bring all of your thoughts and your worries, and even your anger at him, if that's where you are, like all of that in God's direction. I think God just loves and appreciates that we're like really wrestling with him, and coming in contact with him, even if it's through wrestling. So yeah, I feel like uh questions are a way that kind of I find that God is like pointing me towards him, is through my questions, hilariously enough, but also through people. And then also just like look around you at nature. There's I keep if you see my eyes darting, it's because there's a bird feeder right in front of me, and I keep seeing these cardinals come up, and it's like the story is written everywhere. Like everything, if you trace it back farther enough, everything is kind of going to lead to God. I can see it in all of the ways that, I mean, the daffodils in my backyard and the kiss on the cheek from my husband. Like every good thing is from above, and I know that's cliche, but I mean it and I believe it, and it
Mm,
adds so much meaning to life whenever you look at the world that way. So
yeah. No, I'm with you in that. I think that there's an enchantment to reality that there's so much talk about re-enchantment and how much the West needs to be re-enchanted and things like that. And I think, yeah, I understand all those conversations and what people are driving at, but I think the heart of it is that it was never reality has never been disenchanted. We fell asleep or we got distracted. We started to see fiction versus reality, and I think that that's what you're pressing on there is like, no, you can walk out and the daffodils are pointing beyond themselves. This is
yeah,
everything is pointing beyond itself. The whole story is enchanted. And
yeah,
once you pass through, I think that space and enter into or re-enter what is real, which is an enchanted reality where there is a God who loves you, then there's a felt sense that we experience in life that is a fullness to life that I think Jesus was like, hey, I came for that, like for you to have that.
mhm,
And so I love that you paint that picture
mhm,
and point us home to say, no, that is what is real. That's what's
mhm.
home. And you have a line in the song. First, the guitars in that song, there's a particular like grittiness to the guitar in that. And I wanted to ask you, I love that. I think it's beautiful. And there's a earthiness to it that's so good. Uh, did that just happen? I have to ask you about that
Yeah.
particular thing, or is there just somebody in your band that's like, no,
Oh
I'm
my
that
goodness.
on this song, I'm going there.
It's going hard. Yeah, after my brother played electric on that song, and I could just tell he was having so much fun with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, he's
No, tell him it comes through. Like I
I
was
will.
listening to that
I will.
song over and over, and I was like, okay, whoever's playing guitar in that
Yeah,
song is like, there's a
they're
magic
having a
in.
moment.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, there's a line that says, I'm not a prophet, I'm not a preacher. Call it what you want, which I love. I thought that was such good writing. Call it what you want. The name isn't needed. I'm just here to say it the way I see it. Somebody somewhere loves me and I feel it. Such good writing. I mean, that's a beautiful line, first of all, beautiful, beautiful line. But have you always felt that? I mean, the next song I'm going to ask you about is Hey Doubter. So I know there's that doubt and faith part. So even in the most doubting moments, have
Mm,
you felt that, hey, I may not have all the answers, but somebody somewhere loves me and I feel it.
mm,
And that love is big. Has that always been true? Or have there been moments where you're like, I actually don't feel that. And I have to fight my
yeah.
way back to believing it.
Actually, I would say most of the time I don't feel it, hilariously enough. Maybe the better way to say that would be like, um, I trust it all the time, or I like can logically get there in my mind that um, somebody out there loves me. Um, on my best days, I can say God loves me, Christ loves me, the Holy Spirit loves me, and on the harder faith days, it's somebody somewhere. Either way, I think that I've always felt that pull. I think if you're human, you're gonna feel that pull um, in God's direction. I think it's impossible not to. Um, it's Mary Oliver talks about how God's identity papers are written everywhere, and so like you can't. There's some things you can't ignore, and that's kind of why that line is in there about like a name isn't needed. Like you can call it lots of things. As a believer, I believe it's all God. Um, but I think you can call it whatever you want. And that last line, I actually didn't write. It came from my neighbor TJ. I've just befriended him over the years, and I was on my way home from somewhere, and I rolled down my window, and I was like, "Hey TJ, how's it going?" And his response was, "Well, somebody somewhere loves me." And I love that. I love that
Yeah.
vagueness. And I love that it's like someone has been taking care of me. It's like uh my friend Alan talks about trail magic and how like it's a term for like a water bottle and a granola bar people set out in the middle of a long hike for the person who's coming after them, and how there's like uh it kind of appears right when you need it, just whenever you're really thirsty. Someone before you has left something for you to be carried on by. And I feel like God does that in our stories, how he like leaves conversations or people or like a bird at a feeder or whatever the thing is that kind of points us to him, that kind of carries us on to the next time he thinks that we might need some spurring on. Um yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
where I was going with that. But.
Yeah, no, I love it because I think that those things that trail magic does appear. This
Mhm.
podcast may be that for somebody. Somebody might be like, "Hey, I felt like I was about to give up and didn't think that somebody somewhere loved me, and then somebody sent this to me, and I hear that, and it does press what is real that somebody somewhere does love me. Ultimately, I am loved by God, even if I don't feel that." And there's
Mhm.
some times that these things appear and remind us of that. And I think we've all had that experience where it's like, okay, I was maybe just about ready to stop or maybe not give up, but I just felt
Yeah.
tired. And then that thing appeared. To the person who goes, yeah, that's this experience, or I just had that experience. What's the next step I should take? Like, what do you do in response as just Skye when what's next after you remember that or you hear that or that truth kind of pierces through to the person who's like, okay, cool, that just happened or it might have happened to me and I don't know what to do next. What do you say to that person to say, what's the next thing that maybe you could encourage somebody toward?
Uh, I don't know if this is a cliche answer, but I would just say like go to church and like take in what's already true. Like I find myself like whenever I have those moments where I like deeply feel the love of God, the following Sunday that I go to church and I take communion, it means so much more. And I there there's a song on the record called For Now that kind of talks about this, but uh, I go to a little Anglican church, have for most of my life, and um, there are so many different prayers that we read every single week. We read the Nicene Creed, we read the Lord's Prayer as a church, and there's some days where I walk into church and uh, I'm thinking about my to-do list for next week, or or I see someone who I realize I forgot to text back and what I'm going to apologize to them about after the service or whatever the thing is. And I'm like mouthing along the words to these prayers that I've read my whole life, but I'm not thinking about them. And meanwhile, my husband Tom is beside me saying the words loud and clear. On my left, my parents are sitting next to me and they're saying the words. And I love that like even if I don't feel it on a certain day, the people around me are all saying it louder than I am and can in a way I don't I could this could be heresy, but this is what I've been thinking about is like how they're actually believing for me in those moments and how God actually created us to need each other. And then there are other days after experiences like you kind of just mentioned where I like feel a deep, deep connection, conviction, um, and like the cross actually looks real.
Mm,
Um, to me, and I walk in and I find myself saying these words that I've said my whole life, but they all of a sudden have this like sustenance to them, and how
mm,
every word actually is is being held together by the Spirit.
mm.
Uh, and meanwhile, maybe my parents on my left are thinking about their to-do list, but I'm saying it loudly. And yeah, I love that God created us to have all different versions of ourselves going on in our heads at once, and how people God like places these people in your life to kind of carry you over until you can say them with real
Mm.
conviction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying it like that. I think so many people have felt exactly that. They've been in church and been like, I don't know, but I'm here, and they feel like they know, and they maybe have felt that as like a in a negative way. And I love that you're flipping that and say, don't beat yourself up about that. That's human. There's going to be moments that you're there thinking about your to-do list. And the beauty is we're nested within something that is greater than ourselves. And we don't have to hold on to something by feeling, by rational assent. It's just, it's reality that we get to be nested within. And I don't think it's cliche at all to say go to church. I think that's a beautiful thing, right? Like if we feel that haunting, that provision, that something piercing through, pay attention to it. And I think it's a beautiful next step to say, why not? Like turn towards or keep walking in the direction. And I love that you said that just even in the breaking of bread, I think about the road to Emmaus, and people were just walking opposite the direction, and Jesus meets them, and then at the table breaking bread, then they can see a little bit more clearly. And I think that's true for us too. So I love it. Hey Doubter is another song. You got to play this on stage. I watched a video of you performing this in Nashville. Gorgeous venue, beautifully done. Like that moment it had to be beautiful. I did see your dad stand up clapping after you performed the song, and I was like, that's a good dad. I felt like all of us dads feel that kind of joy when we see our kids just be who they were made to be. And so that was really cool to see. But you played that so beautifully. The line, "the real things ain't as good as lying," it comes from that. And in that song, you say your brokenness didn't come out of nowhere. And that line struck me. Your brokenness didn't come out of nowhere. And I was like, okay, there's a story behind that song. So yeah, maybe if you can, just the quick little headline. What's the story behind Hey Doubter?
I wrote it in that room right there after I had just finished crying with my husband about how I just have these super loud voices in my head all the time that are uh, kind of just telling me all of the things that are wrong about myself. And I've had it since I was a little girl, and I've wrestled for it or wrestled with it for as long as I can remember. And it's taken a lot for I haven't quite figured out how to silence those voices, but I have by the grace of God, and I mean that. I've found out how to like turn other voices louder,
Mm.
the voices of truth that are saying, I actually just love you, and I actually just like you. Um and sometimes I find myself, I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm not sure if you guys are Enneagram listeners, but I they're known as the achiever, and also they have a very big chameleon era to themselves. And so I find myself kind of putting my best foot forward in most social settings, and because I have this idea that if they really knew me, they probably wouldn't like me very much, because I have this voice in my head that's telling me all of the things that are wrong about myself
Mm.
all the time. So I find myself kind of putting my best foot forward,
Mm.
almost as if like if they found out about my brokenness, then they'd leave. And I'm sure, my therapist could tell you all of the reason or places that came from, but I won't go into that here. But uh, I'm I find myself writing songs from God's perspective sometimes, in order to help myself believe the truth. And it's kind of a creative exercise to just imagine what God's voice would say. But most of the time I try that, there are things that happen or words that are said that I don't feel like I came up with.
Mm.
So even in the chorus of that song where it says, "Hey doubter, I know doubting's what you do. Um, could you be open to the truth that you're a choice that I choose over and over from the very start I knew." Like it's weird. I don't want to like not take credit for it and be like if it was all God, then it would be a way better song. But I find myself I'm just so grateful for words that are, even every time I play it live, they like minister to me in a new way. because I struggle to believe it so much um, that he's not scared of my brokenness, and if God is outside of time, then what he did on the cross, he could see the full picture and
Yeah.
know the Skye today who goes into church and doesn't quite know how to fully give my attention to him. And he knew that. He knew that when he died for me. And I will never really understand that, but I'll always be compelled by it and saved by it. And uh that song, yeah. I'm glad you like that song because it really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
It's very,
No,
very
it's
special.
is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I think that that gift of, you know, call it what you want, poet, preacher, whatever, the name doesn't matter. Right? There's this gift you have to help us see God, and that reality of God saying to us, hey, your brokenness didn't come from nowhere. And I love that. Like when someone does that for us, even just at a human level, and says, "Hey, turns out you're human." There's a story. Of course, you're navigating this like this. That's incredible to imagine God speaking to you, saying, "Hey, doubter," right? Like I know doubting's what you do. Would you be open to the truth? There's such a gentleness in that that shows God like willingness to come near to us in exactly where we're at.
Yeah.
This comes through so beautifully. Beautiful. That's a massive idea, elegantly given to us in a way that just is beautiful. So I love it. I'm looking at Riley. Riley's keeping me accountable to not burn up all your time. I could talk through every single song, but the album is through line. And as you've heard, like we could do this with every single song. Every word is chosen. It's beautifully presented. So this is going to be a rich album to just listen to. I would encourage you, go find it. You can find it on all the platforms. Spotify is where I listen to it, and listen to it all the way through. I think that's the way albums should be listened to, and especially an album with the title Throughline. Like, go listen and find that through line. Let it carry you along the story, and you'll end up in this place. And we'll have to leave it here, but you will end it with this Holy Angel. Um, Yikes! Like this song is like when we talk about beauty that pierces you, that's
Mm.
what happened for me. This song came on. It was like toward the end of my session listening, and I was like stunned at how beautiful this song is. And there's a line that says, "If you ask if he's indifferent, the answer is his death." And that line, paired with the beauty of that song, is stunning. I don't know if you even want to say anything about Holy Angel. I don't really have a question other than to say that song is so stunningly beautiful. I don't know where it came from or how you crafted that lyrically and musically, but well done. Is beautiful. So I'll let you have the last word. Holy Angel. It was literally mind-blowingly beautiful.
Wow. Thank you very much. I That's one of my favorites on the record too. It was taken from a Bonhoeffer quote, which hopefully makes me sound super smart. I haven't actually read Bonhoeffer. It was Tim Keller quoting Bonhoeffer, but the quote is "Pain is a holy angel that reveals treasures that otherwise would have been hidden forever." And I don't understand the pain in my life, but I do know that somehow it's actually brought me closer to God, closer to reality, closer to what it means to be human. And that song is kind of an exploration of pain and the way that God uses it to bring us closer to Him. And I love you're such a great interviewer because you're highlighting all of my favorite lines in the whole record, which means you're really really in. But I love that like I can be mad at God for a lot of things. I can be mad at him for feeling distant, for feeling far, for whatever, but I can't accuse him of not being present or not caring. Um and yeah, if I have any question of that ever, just look at the cross, which is literally for the joy set before him that he would actually die for us because of love, because of delight and affection. And also there's that idea that like God isn't a God of necessity, that he doesn't need anything from us for him to be holy and set apart, which means that everything he does for us is out of affection and delight. It's not out of need, it's for like love for his beloved. And yeah, which means that the cross that was set before him was his joy.
Mm.
And that I can walk with confidence, knowing that like he loves me, and he's showed that in 1,000 ways, but most of all on the cross. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a stunningly beautiful song. And I think for those of us we're not in the place of feeling like, oh, God's mad at me. Like maybe we don't even have a morality anymore in our culture to like feel like God would be mad at us, right? Like 'cause everything is permissible, right? For in our culture, I think the more terrifying thing is that he's indifferent. It's not that we walk around going, "Oh, God's mad at me." We're just like, "No, I think he doesn't care. I think he's indifferent to me." And there's a pain to that that's even more searing, more acute. And I
Mm.
think the way that you answer that very, very real feeling that we all have at times with, "Hey, if you ask me if he's indifferent," right? Like the answer is his death. Like it is the final word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Skye, beautiful album. Through Line is really, 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 really beautiful. So everybody go grab the album. And here's what I would say, a couple of things if you're listening to this. First of all, the world needs the world's greatest artists to tell the world's greatest stories. So when we meet these people and they're generous enough to share their gift with all of us and their talent, that treasure, but also their time, don't take that for granted. So if you listen to this interview, just please put Skye's name up and pray for Skye, pray for the album. It is this kind of art needs to get into the world. It needs to find its way through. I believe there's something more powerful than an algorithm. It's called providence. And so God's providence will get and distribute this art into the world where it needs to find its way the most. So join me in praying for Skye, and also just go find the album and share it with people. I think there's something about great art that we get to be a great audience in. And when we hear great art, when we hear great writing, pay attention, let it have its work in your life, and then go share it with somebody who also might resonate with the stories, with the lyrics, with the questions, with the beauty of the pieces. That's a part of the exchange. It's not just an economic thing where we give you a fraction of 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 a cent to listen to it on Spotify, but maybe we also participate in helping great art come back out into the world. So if you're listening, pray for Skye, and then participate. Like listen to the album, enjoy the album, let it do its work in your life, and then pass it on to somebody else. And if we have the honor, Skye, we'd love to have you down in Tampa. But until then, congratulations on Through Line. Phenomenal work. Really, really, really cool. And thanks for sharing some time.
Thanks so much, Dad. This has been great.